Hello, welcome to Interviews with Eli, and I'm your host, Eli Staley. Today we have Mr. Vaughn Joshua with us, and we're going to start off with some questions. He was a former MLB coach and player. So, Mr. Joshua, question number one is: in 1974, while a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, you witnessed Hank Aaron's record breaking home run, in which Hank Aaron passed Babe Ruth for number 715. Take us back to that game, and can you tell us your memories that on that historic day in baseball history?
Absolutely. So we started we opened up the season in San Diego, and Atlanta opened up in Cincinnati. He needed two home runs, and they wanted him to hit the home run. They wanted him to break the record in Atlanta, but he hit one in Cincinnati, and he needed one more to break it. And he tied Ruth with the first one, and so I could say we were in San Diego. And what happened was before our first game, we got a phone call from the general manager and Al Campanis. He said, let me speak to Al." We call him Ace. And I gave Ace the phone. I thought he was getting traded. I was looking at the expressions on his face. Long story short, what they wanted to do, though, they moved him back. They wanted him to pitch the first game in Atlanta. So, and the thing he was ticked off about was the fact that it's going to be eight or 9 days between his last, pitching in spring training as opposed to then his first start. So that morning when we were in Atlanta, and I said, we were roommates, and I said, "Roomie, is he going to get it?" He just kind of, and I said, "Oh, okay, that's all I want to know. I don't want to know nothing else." And sure enough, he walked him the first time, and then the second at bat, he laid it right in there, and he didn't miss it. But yeah, it was that was interesting. It was fun because at that time Atlanta, man, they didn't get no fans. I mean, they didn't draw anything. And when he broke that record, they stopped the game. It was that game. It was, I mean, you couldn't get an ant in the stadium. It was so packed. And he hit the home run, and they stopped the game and had a little ceremony for him. Sammy Davis Jr., Willie Mays, and those guys were there and stuff. And after the ceremony, the stands were empty again. So the people came and saw him hit the home run, then boom, they left, went home. But yeah, that's like I say, I was Al's roommate when that happened, and you know, we heard stuff, and probably was true that they wanted a black pitcher to throw the pitch up to him. So that's one reason why they chose Al, I think. But like I said, it had been 8 days, and so he was a little ticked that he had to wait so many days between his start. But then after that, he said, "Oh, what the heck?" He was okay with it. But yeah, so it was that was exciting. He that was exciting.
Mr. Joshua, from 1969 to 2013, you were a player or a coach in professional baseball. What's the longest home run you've ever seen hit, and who hit it?
The longest home run. I saw the two longest home runs. I didn't see the second one, but Willie Stargell. Willie started my first year when I got called up in September. We were playing the Pirates at the time when it was six of us that got called up in September, and we are playing the Pirates at in Dodger Stadium. That small fog would kind of settle in, and you couldn't see the outfield that well. And they had a tin. Had a tin roofing on top of the stands, and he hit one, and we couldn't see it, but we heard it. And one of the security guys, who saw it, he said the ball missed getting over the roof by like a foot, something like that. But then he hit it. Well, actually, it was funny because when he hit that, and Stargell he was from we were the same, from home. He was my homeboy, and when after he hit it, I was talking to Andy Messenger, who threw the pitch to him, and I was talking to Willie, and Andy comes up, and Willie kind of got, "Oh, is he ticked because I hit the ball off of him?" but he shoved the bat in his face. Said, "Here, would you sign this for me?" And then he did it again. He did it again. Like I said, I wasn't there when he hit the second one, but that one went all the way out of the stadium, and then another one he hit. I didn't see it, but uh, we were in Pittsburgh, and it was a getaway day, and me and Davey Lopes got dressed pretty quick. The bus was right outside. We said, "Oh, let's go up to the stand." There was a seat where he hit the ball, where he hit his home run. So we got up there. Man, I tell you, it looked like you looked back down at the dime, it looked like there were ants. I mean, so that was like I said, I didn't see that one. Kind of like the Ted Williams home run where they got the red seat in Boston. But yeah, he hit the longest home runs that I saw. Yeah.
Mr. Joshua, you were teammates with Dick Allen, who was just elected to the Hall of Fame. As a former teammate of Mr. Allen, how happy are you to see him finally elected to a Hall of Fame?
Well, it should have been a long time ago. It should have been. He should have been when he was alive. Uh, he came. Dick came to us in '71, and which hurt me because here again, I was the youngest, so I was because of Dick. It made us have one too many outfielders, so they set me down, and I was up and down that year. I was half season in LA and half a season in AAA, but but he was just a special guy. I mean, this guy was, all the stuff we had heard about him and everything was totally, totally untrue. I remember Leron Lee, who was a good friend of mine from Sacramento. We talked to him after we were in Dominica. Leron and I were in Dominica, and he said, "Hey, man." He was on the next balcony right next to mine. He said, "Hey, man, don't believe all that stuff you hear about it. This dude is super." And, he sure was. But he should have been, selected a long time before. There was a rumor going around, and I don't know how true it is. He never confirmed it or denied it. But supposedly the White Sox gave him $1 million under the table and didn't want nobody to know. So he was the first, technically, if that's true, he was the first $1 million ball player. So supposedly they give it to him under the table, but they didn't want, they don't want that salary to, to spiral to all the other players. So, but that's what we heard. But he was just a special player. I mean, he could do everything. He can do everything. He could run. I mean, he didn't have a great arm, but he could run. He could hit for power. I mean, he had everything. He had all the tools. He was like Willie Mays. He could be running at full speed around the second base, be running full speed, and then look back over his shoulder while he's running full speed. If I did, I'd probably fall. But he was we were just surprised, how great of a base runner and stuff like that, how that he was, and he was he was a student of the game. I mean, we had a funny story. We were in spring training, and that first spring, and Davy Lopes and I were roommates. We were in the old barracks at that time, and you could hear somebody walk down the barracks every evening after dinner. Richie, about 5 or 6 of the veterans, Richie, Wes Parker, Willie Davis, and those guys, they would have little powwows in Richie's room. So Dave and I said, "Oh, we don't have to go today. They're not gonna miss us." So we hear somebody come walking down the hallway, somebody banging on our door, and it was Dick. He cursed us out all the way down to his room. he said, "This is for you guys," and you're not showing up. That was the last time we didn't show up, but that was Dick. I mean, he was a special guy. Like I say, everybody on that team, we were just amazed because all the bad stuff you heard about it was none of that stuff was really true.
Mr. Joshua, growing up in Oakland, California, you got to see Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente play. Can you tell us your memories of watching these two great players?
Wow. Well, Mays, first of all, just just watching him. I wasn't a Giants fan actually, but watching him play, uh, regularly. I mean, just the stuff that he could do was just unbelievable. I mean, the when I first got called up, the first game I started was against the Giants in San Francisco, and we had a pitcher named Sandy Vance. He went to Stanford, so we were both local guys. He was going to start the game, and I was playing in the outfield. Mays Mays took a swing and and he missed it. And Willie Davis was center fielder. He said, "Hey man, you better get back a little bit." The next pitch, he hit it halfway up in the seats, you know. And so that was one of the things I saw, So, but it was so many things with Mays. I mean, the way he caught the ball. I tried to do that basket catch, got hit in the stomach, stopped trying it. He only other guy could do that was Roberto Clemente, actually. And on Roberto, my dad used to, whenever a star would come to play the Giants, my dad would get tickets behind the plate. And so we were sitting behind home plate, and you couldn't see down in right field corner from where we were sitting. And Tom Haller hit a line drive down the right field line, and we couldn't see Roberto. Like I said, he was out of view. All of a sudden, we saw a little blur, looked like a golf ball, about chest high, all the way on the fly to second base, and got Haller by half. Haller was just like halfway down to second base. But I ain't never seen anything like that before. But speaking of Mays, everybody say, Mays is the best ball player ever and all that. But if you ask Mays, he said, "Hey, that guy could do anything I can do, if not better." And but yeah, he was special. We had a funny story. Well, funny story, I should say. We were in Pittsburgh, and at that time, he was struggling. He was having a lot of problems with the media. He had some injuries and stuff, and the media was all over him and stuff. And so, back in those days, we had 4 games. We had 4-game series instead of 3. So for the first 3 games, he just hit little ground, kind of that little Roberto Clemente run, little trot. He run down, walk back to the dugout after he got to first base. On the Sunday game, the last game, Bill Singer, who threw a no-hitter for us, out, that earlier on, but he let's see what. So Bill, he got him 0-2, and he threw one right at his head, and Roberto went down, and he got back up. And the next, he went 4 for 4 with 4 line drives. I mean, 4 line drives. They would say, "Oh, well, you woke him up," But he was another one. He was just a special talent. I mean, you could learn so much. He was good friends with Manny Mota, who was my roommate when I first got to the big leagues. And so when we play those guys, they would come, him, Manny Sanguillen, and those guys would all come to our room and pay homage to Manny, so to speak. And I used to sit there and they're all speaking Spanish. And I sit there and say, "God, man, Roberto Clemente's in my room," So, but yeah, he like I say, he did the basket catch like Mays, but he caught it down a little lower than Mays. He caught it more around his thigh. Mays caught it right at his belly, but he caught that thing down around by his thighs, which was really hard to do. It's hard enough what Mays did, but to put your glove down there like that, and then you could lose sight of the ball. And that's the way he did. But he like I say, he was special. And that game, that Sunday game, man, that told the whole story. I mean, he knocked him on his butt, and he got up and hit 4 line drives. Man. I said, "Oh, okay," you woke him up. But yeah, he was a special talent. He made probably 2 of the best players I ever seen.
Mr. Joshua, you were teammates with Dusty Baker, the man credited with creating the high five in sports, and who just retired from managing in the big leagues after winning the World Series with the Houston Astros. Do you think, with his World Series championship and over 2,100 wins, that will guarantee his induction into the Hall of Fame as a manager?
Absolutely. That was the only thing he was missing. He needed, I forget how many games he needed. And, like you say, if you got that 2000, whatever, 2000 and something, if you got that, you were guaranteed to be into the Hall of Fame. And so he didn't think he was going to get it because he didn't think he was going to get coaching managing job. And then when Houston signed him after that scandal with those guys, he became the manager and he got those wins. And after he got those wins, it was automatic that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, Dusty and I were very good friends. We were close. We're good buddies. But I'm glad he got it. Like I say, if Houston hadn't signed him as manager, he would have never made it to the Hall of Fame. And because he would have been short. He would have been short. I forget how many games it was, but he would have been short before he went to Houston. So I'm saying he wouldn't have got in. Like I say, that was one of the criteria for a manager to get into the Hall of Fame, was to have so many wins. And when he went to Houston, that's when he got those wins, and that guaranteed himself, a Hall of Fame berth.
Mr. Joshua, you were promoted to the big leagues in 1969 from the AAA Spokane to the Dodgers. Can you walk us through how you found out you had just been promoted? Who told you that you were going to be in the big leagues? And who was the first person you called to tell them you made it?
Well, it was a funny story. So we knew we had some good, every year we had good top young players, so we knew some of us were going up in September. And so the starter calls all the guys he called 5 guys into the room, and I'm sitting out there. I said, oh man, I'm not going to go up to the big leagues. And about 5 minutes later, he opens the door and said, Josh, come on in here. And they all started clapping. And so so he played a little trick on me. He made it seem like I wasn't going to go. Then he brought me into into his office, and he told me that I was going to the big leagues. And well, my wife she was there. We were, she was still at the apartment before the game, and I called and told her that we're going to the big leagues. And so yeah, so it was, like I said, it was a nervous time, because like I said, he called those guys in there, I didn't think I was going to go up, but then he called me in. Like I said, they tell me it was a jokester, and he played the little joke on me, and calls me in there and say, okay, Josh, hey, you're going to the big leagues, man. So that's about how I went.
Mr. Joshua, here in West Virginia, many of us grew up Cincinnati Reds fans. As a player, you went against what was known as the Big Red Machine back in the 1970s. Can you tell us some memories about playing against the Big Red Machine? And for those of us who never got to see them play, what was that one of the best teams you've ever seen during your career?
Yep, that and 71 Pirates. But yeah, yep. I'm sorry. Sorry, somebody. Well, I'm sorry. What's that question again?
Mr. Joshua, here in West Virginia, many of us grew up Cincinnati Reds fans. As a player, you went up against what was known as the Big Red Machine back in the 1970s. Can you tell us some memories about playing against the Big Red Machine? And for those of us who never got to see that team play, was that one of the best teams you've ever seen?
Oh yeah, it was 73. We were ahead of them by 10 games, and Austin kept, he didn't care for young players, but he kept telling us, oh, I hope the Reds get it, overtake you, and then we see how good you guys are, all this and all that. And everybody's kind of looking, what's he talking about? But the thing about those guys, man, that lineup, Geronimo hit 8th, and Cesar Geronimo hit 8th, and was what, Rose, Morgan, Bench, and Perez, then George Foster, Ken Griffey Jr.'s dad, and I forget who was the other player, but then and Geronimo hit 8th, and if he got on, if they needed if they needed 5 runs, say you go 5 runs, they get 6. You you get 6 runs at the end of the game, they get 7. It was unbelievable. They just they were. I mean, like I said, once they got Geronimo, he get on, then they have a pinch hitter, and then here comes Rose, and it was over. So those guys were tough. We came back in '74. We didn't. like I say, we Austin kept saying, yeah, you guys, see how good you guys are. Actually, they overtook us and beat us. But the next year, 74, we said, oh, we ain't gonna let that happen again. So we beat them in 74. But yeah, that's the best team I ever seen. Yeah, I ever seen. Joe Morgan went to the same high school I did, and but he was older than me. But yeah, that was a scary lineup, man. I mean, it was just a very, very scary lineup, and he's Sparky didn't like pitchers, and I remember Joe was telling me, he said Sparky called the pitchers in and said, "Hey, with this offensive team, I could get anybody. I could call up anybody from AAA to pitch. And so if you don't do the job, you're going down. I called up anybody with this." So everybody said one of the reasons he couldn't hit. He didn't like pitchers because he couldn't hit. But yeah, they were just it was just an unbelievable team. I mean, they were just they were unbeatable, at that time. Like I say, 71 Pittsburgh, we are family. They had the same thing, same type of team. Maybe not quite as good. The pitching staff was a little better, but they had the same situation over in Pittsburgh in 71. But yeah, but that's the best team I ever seen, by far, no question about it.
Mr. Joshua, as a member of the Dodgers, you got to meet the legendary Jackie Robinson. What was it like meeting Mr. Robinson? And can you tell us any memories you have of meeting him and what he was like?
Um, I met him once. It was some type of day in some kind of ceremony in L.A., and he came to it. And at the time, he was losing his eyesight. He was starting to lose his eyesight, so he couldn't see very well. But he talked to each one. He called, he got us in a circle. He went right around the circle and talked to each one of us. Gave each one of us some type of advice or something, some type of encouragement or anything. But that's the way Jackie was. What was funny what was funny with him is as big as he was, he had this real high squeaky voice, kind of, and I thought that was kind of cool. But actually, I knew his wife a lot better. I knew her a lot better. I used to do a lot of stuff. We used to put on clinics, and they owned the library in Pasadena, and she used to invite us up. I'd go in there all the time to speak to the kids and stuff like that. So I knew his wife real well. But yeah, he was. That was the only time I got a chance to meet Jackie. But that was special. It was special. I mean, you could see why he was what he was. I mean, just meeting and talking to him, it was just unbelievable, unbelievable.
Mr. Joshua, as a hitting coach for the Chicago White Sox, you got to coach two of the most feared hitters of their era in the Hall of Fame. First off, first baseman Frank Thomas, also known as the Big Hurt, and the only hitter to ever produce 50 home runs and 50 doubles in the same season. Outfielder Albert Bell, what was it like getting to watch those guys take batting practice every day?
It was it was special. It was special. For story I have a story with Frank. When I came up, when they called me up to be the coach, they fired the coach, and the general manager called me in and said, "Hey, okay, you're here for the kids, Ordonez, Cameron, and all those guys." So he said, "Leave Frank, leave Albert, and leave Robin Ventura. Leave them alone. Let them do their thing. You just concentrate on the kids." One day, Frank comes up to me and said, "What? How come you don't like me?" I said, "Frank, what do you mean I don't like? I like you." He said, "You never talk to me. You never say anything to me." I said, "Frank, I play with some Hall of Famers, man, and I'm treating you like those Hall of Famers were treated. Hey, what am I gonna tell you? What you want in your coffee, cream and sugar? I mean, what the heck am I gonna tell you? That's so after that, we were cool, but he was tough to work with. Frank was a little tough to work with. Albert was even tougher, but Albert, when I came up, he used to come in the batting cage before everybody else, and he had me sit like 3 feet from his open side in front of the home plate, and he wanted me to soft toss the ball right knee high, right on the corner outside corner of the plate. He said that's the way pitchers pitched him. And if I didn't get it right there, if I didn't get it there, man, he would get mad, start huffing and puffing. And I mean, I was sweating bullets trying to flip to him. So finally, one day, I said I had enough. Some of the younger kids were in there, and I said, Albert, F you, man. I cannot, from this distance, I can throw everything right at that spot. It's almost impossible. And stepped back, he looked at me, and he started laughing. And so after that, I didn't sweat no more, man. For as hitting, hey, man, that's one of the best hitting exhibitions I ever seen in my life. We were in Minnesota at the old stadium, and I had gone up to the clubhouse to get water or whatever, and I was coming back, so I just stood back behind home plate and watched the hitters. And I noticed that Albert was standing a little further than he normally stood from the plate. And so I said, "Oh, should I say something to him?" So anyway, I told him, I said, "Albert, you're standing a lot further from the plate than you normally do." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." So he got up on the plate, and like they say, 50-50. The rest was history. Frank, it was funny with Frank, because Frank tried to, oh, his bat is Cork, because he stole Frank's thunder, but his bat wasn't Cork. I mean, I held his bat every day, but it wasn't Cork. But yeah, that's the best exhibition of hitting I saw personally. Barry Bonds did his thing and all that. But yeah, he was amazing. I mean, he was amazing. Like I say, it was like when Barry Bonds hit all those home runs. Every time he swung the bat, it was a double. It was a double. I mean, so our home run. So that's but like I say, at first I was real nervous around him. I was never nervous around Frank, because I knew Frank, from spring training. I was in, minor leagues, but Albert, I was a little nervous around him. And like I say, until we finally broke the ice, and after that, man, he'd take me out to lunch, take me out to dinner and everything, talk baseball. Very, very intelligent baseball IQ, extremely good, like Dick Allen, extremely high baseball IQ. And you wouldn't know it because all the bad stuff, all the negative stuff you hear about Albert. And but yeah, that was that year. I mean, when he got that 50-50, man, I just shook my head. I said, this guy's unbelievable. But yeah, it was really, really fun watching him do that.
Might have been more scary throwing front toss to him than throwing in games.
I'm sorry?
It might have been more scary throwing front toss to him than pitching to him.
I can't understand what you're saying.
It might have been more scary throwing front toss to him than pitching to him in games.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't have to do that, fortunately. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. I just soft toss with him, and other guys do batting practice. The hitting coach didn't have to throw batting practice and stuff, But like Ward asked, about sound off the bat. Out the ball came off of Albert's bat different than other people. Frank was Frank. And but man, the ball just, I mean, when he made contact, man, it was just a loud crack. And but he was just a good player. I mean, like I said, all the negative stuff was surrounding him. We didn't see any of that, when I was with him. So, but yeah, there were two, and then we had Robin Ventura and the White Sox had the hitting coach, Walt Reniak. He was having everybody do this weird style of hitting and, whatever. And so Robin Ventura came out of college and was the leading hitter in the country out of Citadel. And Walt Reniak made him just the average hitter his career. But and I was working with the young kids, and Robin was there watching. And he said, I know what you're saying and everything, but I've been doing this for so long that I can't change. But that he was the other guy, those three guys. But yeah, Frank and Albert, they were special to watch. I mean, the umpires didn't give the pitchers anything on the inside part of the plate with Frank. they made the pitchers throw everything away from him, and that's what he wanted. That big body, he could just reach out over there and hit the ball left field or wherever he wanted to hit it. But so but the umpires helped him in that sense. I don't know what happened one year. He must have ticked the umpires off in spring training, and they started calling that pitch on the inside corner on him, and he had some trouble. He had some trouble, but of course, Hall of Famer, he made the adjustments and dealt with it and got through it. But yeah, with those two guys, like I say, I say, hey, if I coach no one else, this is very special for me to be here with these two guys.
Al Oliver, who is from our region in Southern Ohio, is a guy you got to play against when he was a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates. How good of a hitter was Al Oliver, and can you share with us any memories about playing against those great Pirates teams
Oh
of
man,
the 70s?
yeah, that we are family, man. They like I say, they were like that big red machine, and Al, he was my best. Well, let's put it this way: he's the best breaking ball hitter I ever seen in my life. A typical hitting line for Al would be uh, two two line drives and two chinks, little jam shots. He was a special. He was special. I mean, he could, he had that high leg lift, and he could jam sometime, but he was so strong that he hit the ball over the infielders. But he would get two line drives and two bloopers, and and he won the batting title that year. But that's how like I said, he's the best breaking ball hitter I ever seen, because he would get tied up a little bit. That leg lift he'd get tied up a little bit with the fastball once in a while. But man, every time the guy threw a curveball, boy, he was right on it. But like I say, he was. It was special, it was special watching him. But playing against those guys, I say it was like we are family type of thing, and what they had, and you go in their clubhouse, like I say, Willie Stargell was from us, so he'd have us come in their clubhouse and sit around and talk. We walked in there and it looked like Fred Sanford's a junkyard, you know. That's what I do, and I can't, the manager, I can't think of his name now, but he just closed the door and let them do their thing. And Willie was the boss. After Roberto left, Willie was the boss, and he kept everything in order. And but yeah, there was that was a scary bunch too. And their pitching wasn't quite like the other guys, but that was a murder road lineup, man. I mean, that was a good lineup. But Al, like I said, I'll say it again, man. He was the best breaking ball hitter I ever seen in my life. Mm.
Mr. Joshua, as they say, pitching wins championships. You
Mm-hmm.
got to play against some amazing pitchers. May I rephrase that? Dominant pitchers during your era, like Steve Carlton, Tom Seaver, Gaylord Perry, Fergie Jenkins, Don Gollett, and Phil Niekro, just to name a few. Who, in your opinion, was the best pitcher you ever faced in the big leagues?
I hate to say it, but I guess I gotta jump on his back. See, I caught Gibson and some of those. Jenkins was Fergie was still pitching well, but I caught Gibson towards the end, and towards the end of his career. But so I have to say, I have to say Nolan Ryan, and I got to say no, he was mean. And when I first came up to the big leagues, he was still with the Mets, and Seaver was the marquee pitcher, and Nolan was he threw hard, but he was real wild. He didn't know where the ball was going. And 71, I think it was, he went to the Angels and something happened, and all of a sudden he was a different guy. I don't know. He said it was a slider, but it didn't move like no slider. I don't know what the heck was doing to the ball. But yeah, Nolan, I would have to say, consistency, Nolan Ryan. Like I say, he would drill you, he'd hit you in a heartbeat. Phil Niekro, with him against him, with that knuckleball. You couldn't hit that knuckleball, but towards the end of his career, he started throwing more fastballs. And so we knew we couldn't hit that knuckleball. So we just try to guess when he was going to throw a fastball, and that's the pitch that we went after. So he had there there's three or four guys, Wilbur Wood, I can't think of the other guy, but who's knuckleball pitchers. He was the best. He had a great knuckleball. And his brother learned how to throw a knuckleball. Actually, his brother never threw a knuckleball, but later on he learned how to throw a knuckleball. But Gullett Gullett was a hard throwing left-hander. I hit my furthest home run against Gullett. I didn't hit very many home runs, 30 in 10 years, but yeah, he came right as a left, far as a left, he came right over the top. So so I didn't like those lefties that came like 3/4 or side, but he come right over as hard as he threw hard. He was touching close to 100, and I hit a ball off of him. We were in Cincinnati, and I hit a ball over the foul pole up in the upper seats. I'm running around the bases, and Joe Morgan said, "Where you get that kind of power from?" But that's the only time I hit a ball like that. But I think it was more his fast. I changed bats and got a little light 31 ounce bat, and I think it was more of his fastball than me hitting it. But Gullett and Fergie Jenkins. Uh, it was hard pitching it was hard playing, let alone pitching in Wrigley. But Fergie, he was the only guy that you would see that pitch well when the wind was blowing in, and he pitched well when the wind was blowing out. It didn't matter when it was blowing in. He stepped on the mound, and get the sign, and then he stepped back, look up at the flag poles in center field, and turn around and smile at you. I mean, have this big old smile on his face, throw you a BP fastball right down the middle, and you crush it and didn't go nowhere. But that was Fergie. Fergie, he had that good breaking ball too. He was a competitor. I mean, see, back in those days, those guys were throwing 200 innings with nothing for those guys to throw. So, but at Carlton, uh, the only time I really faced him a lot was in '75 when I was playing every day with the Giants, and I was leading off, and he was tough. I didn't get a whole lot of hits off of him. I got a few hits off of him, but for some reason he couldn't throw me strikes. He walked me 7 or 8 9 times. I faced him, but yeah, I could, like I said, he was one of the best too. I mean, that windup and everything he had was just he'd hide the ball, and all of a sudden here come a blur coming at you, and like I said, he had that good breaking ball too. But so those are the guys that I remember. That's what I remember from those guys. But,
Mr. Joshua, you played for Hall of Fame manager Tommy Lasorda. What was Tommy like as a coach/manager, and how much did he influence your coaching career when you started out coaching with the Dodgers?
Tommy, well, thing with Tommy, if Tommy liked you, you had it made. If he didn't like you, you didn't have it made. Just put it simply that. But as I said earlier, Tommy helped me as much with my hitting as anybody did. And he was a pitcher, and he probably I owe a lot of my career to Tommy. Tommy was a player's manager. I mean, he in front of the public out in the field or something, he wouldn't scream at us or anything. He wait till you get inside, then he air us out, curse us out, But like I said, he knew that we were the reason why he was as good as he was, because we had our young players. I mean, man, me, Valentine, Buckner, Tom Shorrick, who else? Garvey, Valentine. I mean, so he was getting some good talent coming up, every year. So we made him pretty much what he is. So, but he was canny, and I mean, Tommy could, yeah, his memory was uncanny, man. He'd get an autograph of someone in the stands doing BP or something like that. He see that person 3 years later, he'd know the person's name. That's kind of how his memory was. But But yeah, he was our leader. He was our friend. I said I owe a lot of my career to him actually. When we got Frank Tom, well, we had Dick Allen in '71. I was up and down. I was the youngest. In '72, I was the odd man. We signed Frank Robinson for his last year, and he came over to the Darts, and I was the odd man out. So I went to down. They sent me down to AAA. Actually, they didn't even invite me to big league camp. But anyway, we're on our way. We're flying over to spring training, and the sorter sat down next to me, and he knew I was ticked because what was going on and everything. And back in those days, from LA to Florida, we had that old Dodger plane. It took us like 13 hours to get from LA to Florida. And Tommy sat down. He sat there and talked to me the whole time we were flying, and and well, the rest, I started off kind of slow, and then I ended up winning the batting title. And boom, I was getting ready to quit, to be honest with you. I was ready to hang him up. I said, God, what do I got to do and see, back in those days, you had no free agency. So you if they didn't want, it could hold you there in AAA as long as they wanted, well, as long as they wanted to, until the free agency stuff started. But Tommy said, yeah, he talked me in, and like I said, he pumped me up, and I ended up winning the batting title, and I went back to the big leagues. That was the last time I was in the minors.
Mr. Vaughn Joshua, thank you for your time and thanks for sharing some of the amazing baseball history that you've been a part with us today.
Okay, anytime. Great, it's fun. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Okay.